Do you believe that success means being admired, recognized, celebrated by the crowd? Nietzsche would say no. To him, true success doesn't come with applause. It comes with silence. It doesn't bring comfort. It brings confrontation. You're about to discover that everything you've been taught about winning is tainted by illusions. Because Nietzsche wasn't speaking to your ego. He was speaking to the wild soul, that part of you that craves more. Not more fame, but more truth. In this video, you will face the darkest and most liberating side of success. The kind that demands your pain, your solitude, and your brutal courage to be different. The cruel truth that no one ever told you. And maybe, after hearing it, you'll never accept living small again. They taught you that success is beautiful. They said that if you are kind, proper, obedient, and follow all the rules, the world will smile at you. They told you the road to victory is paved with good intentions, that all you need is honesty, hard work, and politeness, and everything will work out. They lied. Nietzsche didn't believe in success as a moral reward. To him, success is not a prize for the good, it's a consequence for the strong. And strength, contrary to what society celebrates, doesn't come from the desire to please, but from the willingness to confront. Authentic success, he said, is an affirmation of life in its rawest form. Not the idealized life of Christian, pious morality that values suffering as virtue, but life as will to power, raw, chaotic, merciless. That's why real success demands confrontation. Confrontation with others, with the system, with culture, and most of all, with yourself. We live in an age where many confuse success with approval. They believe winning means being loved by everyone. They want to reach the top, but with the crowd applauding, smiling, celebrating. They want the comfort of unanimity. But Nietzsche knew the higher you climb, the more hate you attract. Because by rising, you expose the smallness of others. Your existence becomes offensive to those who chose not to try. In this social logic, virtue becomes just a disguise for cowardice, a mask hiding the fear of confrontation. Being good is often just an elegant way of being weak. Nietzsche didn't defend cruelty, but rather the overcoming of shallow morality. He saw dominant morality as a prison, a creation of the resentful to restrain those with power, those who dare, who transgress, who do not bow. You want success? Prepare to break with everything that keeps you small. Break with the fear of seeming arrogant. Break with the need to please. Break with the habit of asking for permission. Nietzsche believed that every act of creation requires destruction, and that includes destroying old versions of yourself. The you that seeks acceptance, the you that craves approval, the you that fears rejection. True success is born when you choose integrity with yourself over the sympathy of others, when you decide to walk with your own shadow instead of hiding it, when you stop kneeling before collective expectations and begin to raise an altar to your own truth. Nietzsche said, "The road to greatness is not paved with flowers, but with thorns. And among the thorns, one is the sharpest, the loneliness of the strong. The one who seeks real success is not popular. He doesn't please crowds because he doesn't conform to them. He is seen as arrogant, dangerous, even cruel. But in truth, he is simply someone who refuses to be less than he can be, and that disturbs people. That's why Nietzsche despised the ideal of the good man in the traditional sense, the one who sacrifices himself, who fades away, who lives for others. To him, that man is a product of herd morality, a value system created by the weak to imprison the strong. The true winner is the one who, even when hated, remains faithful to his own fire. He walks in silence, knowing that the world only applauds those who don't threaten it. Have you ever noticed how some people simply can't stand your growth? Maybe you begin to stand out and you feel strange looks. Maybe you achieve something and sense the distance of those who once rooted for you. Maybe you start speaking the truth and lose friends. Nietzsche would explain this simply: your light reveals the darkness others haven't faced. True success works like a mirror. It reflects what others didn't have the courage to become. And that's why, instead of admiration, you attract resentment. You'll be called arrogant. You'll be accused of changing. You'll be criticized for no longer fitting in. But that's when you'll know you're on the right path. Because those who are true to their nature can no longer be domesticated. And Nietzsche believed that living domesticated is worse than dying in rebellion. Success is not for the moral, it's for the brave. Behind all these harsh truths, Nietzsche pointed to a liberating principle. Success in its truest form is an act of brutal honesty with yourself. It's the moment you stop living for others' approval and start living for the fire that burns within you. That fire will often burn you, but it will also forge you. Success is not an outcome. It's a continuous decision to be whole, even when it hurts, even when it shocks, even when it isolates. Nietzsche knew this was cruel, but he also knew it was true. Success is not the destiny of the virtuous. It is the destiny of those who dare, of those who carry their own cross without victimizing themselves, of those who speak even when the world wants silence, of those who become lions in a world of sheep. Do you want success? Then stop trying to be loved and start being feared for what you refuse to abandon in yourself. You were taught to desire happiness, conditioned to believe that a successful life is one free of pain, effort, and conflict. To live in comfort, surrounded by simple pleasures, accepted by all, recognized by most. But Nietzsche saw this as a beautifully decorated lie, a trap that turns the spirit into a prisoner of itself. To him, what truly drives the human being is not the desire to be happy, but the will to grow, to impose oneself, to overcome one's limits. Nietzsche called it the Wille zur Macht, the will to power, not the vulgar power of controlling others, but the power to become who you are, to sculpt your own existence as a brutal and magnificent work of art. The will to power is the primal impulse that pulses in every living being. It's the silent scream that pushes us forward, even when everything around says to stop. It's what makes a river carve its way through stone. It's what makes a seed break through dark soil toward the light. It's what makes a human, even in chaos, choose to rise instead of surrender. Nietzsche believed true success is born from that inner force, from that blind will to transform, to create, to transcend oneself. That's why he despised those who lived only in pursuit of safety. To him, the desire for stability was a sign of spiritual decay, because the one who seeks only comfort has already given up on growing, and he who does not grow rots in silence. The success Nietzsche envisioned was a wild success. No guarantees, no external rewards, no molds. A success that doesn't ask for permission, that doesn't need to be understood. It is born from the inner chaos that refuses to be tamed by common morality. And that morality, according to Nietzsche, is the main reason for widespread mediocrity. It teaches that wanting more is wrong, that desiring greatness is arrogance, that ambition is a sin, that being intense is dangerous. This morality, the morality of the weak, the resentful, was created to domesticate the strong, to turn lions into lambs, to make the will to power seem like a disease. But Nietzsche inverted this logic. To him, illness is renouncing your own power. Illness is living to please. Illness is extinguishing your inner fire to fit into a mold that pleases others. The man who desires real success must break with this sugar-coated morality. He must accept that his creative drive will be met with suspicion, that his intensity will be misinterpreted, that his willpower will be mistaken for arrogance. But he does not bow, because within him is a force greater than the fear of rejection. The will to power doesn't need an audience. It doesn't live off likes or approval. It feeds on risk, creation, and the abyss. It's in the moment when everything seems to collapse that it shines the brightest. It's when the world says stop that it whispers continue. It's when loneliness sets in that it reveals its true face. that of a divine spark that turns ruins into cathedrals. Nietzsche believed every human being carries this force within, but few recognize it, and fewer still have the courage to follow it. Because following the will to power means walking against the current. It's rebelling against the normalization of the soul. It's saying no to comfort and yes to transformation. It's choosing the pain of growth over the pleasure of stagnation. And that choice comes with a price: constant restlessness, lack of guarantees, existential discomfort. But it also offers a reward no superficial success ever could: the feeling that your life is truly yours, not a repetition, not someone else's script, but an authentic, alive, intense creation. Even if imperfect, even if misunderstood. Nietzsche didn't want followers. He wanted incendiaries. People capable of setting their own destiny on fire. People willing to burn the bridge behind them, to never return to the comfort that once stunted their growth. People who don't ask for permission to be powerful, who don't dim their light to fit in others' shadows. People who dare to affirm without shame, "I want more. I want to expand. I want to create something that never existed before. Myself." That is true success, not the kind that comes wrapped in diplomas, applause, or pats on the back, but the kind that comes after lonely nights, hard decisions, and inner confrontations no one will ever see. This success cannot be explained. It can only be felt, and it will only be reached by those who have the courage to follow the most dangerous and truthful voice there is, the one that comes from within. Everyone talks about freedom. Everyone wants it. Everyone says they want to be free to think, feel, act, but few know what freedom really costs. And almost no one is willing to pay that price. Nietzsche knew. He understood that true freedom is not a gift, it is a bitter conquest. It's a path that begins with rupture and ends in silence. Because to be truly free is to walk away, to walk without a map, to belong to no group, ideology, morality, or complement, to lose the comfort of collective certainty and embrace the vertigo of your own judgment. Freedom demands that you leave the herd, and the herd, when it sees someone walking away, reacts with rage, not because you are wrong, but because your very existence starts to show they never even tried. Nietzsche said that those who rise are condemned to loneliness, not as divine punishment, but as the inevitable consequence of authenticity. The crowd loves those who confirm it, but hates those who question it, even just by their example. That's why freedom isn't glamorous, it isn't romantic, it doesn't look like a sunset on a beach with eternal vibes. It is often a desert, a void, an absence of voices, a place where no one tells you what to do, and therefore you're forced to take full responsibility for yourself. It's at this point that many give up. They return to the patterns, they conform, they pretend they never wanted more than what they were given. But the few who keep walking discover something that cannot be taught. Greatness is born in isolation. The spirit strengthens in silence. And true success, the one that transforms you from the inside out, can only be forged far from the crowd. Nietzsche called this path the becoming of who you are, a journey without a destination, where you strip off all inherited identities: son, student, employee, model citizen. And in the end, when all the masks fall, you find yourself alone before the naked mirror of existence. It is in that moment that freedom shows its true face. It doesn't offer you a throne, it offers you the abyss, because now there are no more excuses. No one left to blame, no more systems, family, religion, or society to carry your responsibility. Only you remain. But that moment, so feared, is also the purest. It is where true creation begins. Not the creation of something external, but the creation of yourself. Nietzsche believed that the free man is the one who creates his own values, who breaks from imposed morality, who says yes to life, even when it challenges him at every turn. This man is misunderstood. He is called arrogant, insensitive, crazy, but he doesn't care, because he doesn't live to be understood. He lives to be true, and that truth comes at a high cost. the loss of belonging. You begin to realize you can no longer go to certain places, that you no longer fit certain conversations, that your eyes no longer light up for the same promises. You begin to see the masks falling around you, and that's scary. But the most terrifying moment is still to come. The moment you realize you were wearing one, too. And now, stripped bare, you must live with the weight of your existential nakedness. Freedom is raw. It doesn't protect. It doesn't numb. It doesn't allow distractions. But it frees. It frees you from the lie, from the make-believe, from the life lived by proxy. And that, to Nietzsche, was worth every moment of solitude. Because the man who becomes free is the man who can finally live with power. Not the power to dominate others, but the power to create himself day by day, as a work that will never be finished, but never be imitation. The world will try to pull you back, with promises of belonging, recognition, love. But all of it comes with one condition: that you stop being who you are. If you accept it, you return to the herd, and you will have peace. But if you refuse, you will have solitude, and within it, perhaps, a new kind of peace. Not the peace of rest, but the peace of clarity. Nietzsche invites us to that place, not with flowers, but with thorns, because he knew the spirit does not bloom in comfort. It blooms in conflict, in the confrontation with oneself, in the refusal to live halfway. If freedom scares you, it's because it's real. If it isolates you, it's because you're breaking the mold. And if it hurts, it's because it's working. True freedom is not a right. It's a sacred condemnation, a choice for the few, a path that demands everything and promises nothing. But if you endure, if you keep walking even when the world goes silent, if you accept being misunderstood in the name of your truth, then perhaps one day you'll look back and realize that in that brutal solitude, the strongest spirit you could ever become was born. The world applauds the shine, but rarely asks what lies behind it. We live in an era where appearing matters more than being, where success is no longer an internal process, but a storefront display. Nietzsche, if he lived today, wouldn't be surprised. He had already foreseen this. A society where form overrides substance, where the reflection is worth more than the essence. Today, success is measured in likes, followers, numbers, aesthetics, and performance. But Nietzsche would say that's just a mask, and behind it lives the void. The mask of success is beautiful, yes. It's polished, radiant, socially acceptable, but it's also fragile, deceitful, and deep down, cowardly. Because it isn't there to express, it's there to hide. It hides the fear of not being enough. It hides the insecurity of not being accepted. It hides the soul that was never cultivated because the ego needed to shine. Modern narcissism, for Nietzsche, would be the clearest symptom of decadence. Not because self-love is condemnable, on the contrary, but because what we now call self-love is often just a disguise for the lack of a real identity. The person doesn't love themselves. They idolize themselves. They don't recognize themselves. They project themselves. They don't build themselves. They display themselves. It's a worship of the hollow ego, a cult of appearance without roots. Nietzsche would see this as a collapse of vital force, because where there is obsession with appearance, there is absence of power. True success doesn't scream. It doesn't impose itself through vanity. It reveals itself in silence, like a tree that grows in the dark and one day breaks through the earth toward the sky. But the modern world has no patience for roots. It wants quick flowers, ones that shine even if they don't last. It wants instant results, even if at the cost of depth. Nietzsche knew that this kind of success doesn't transform anyone. It only disguises inner misery. And so the paradox appears. The more someone seems to win in the eyes of the world, the more fragile they may be inside. The more external recognition, the higher the risk of internal alienation. It's easy to build a castle for others to admire. What's hard is to inhabit a fortress within, one where you recognize yourself even in the dark. The mask of modern success, when seen up close, is a golden prison. It demands constant upkeep. It demands you be what others others expect, that you smile even when you're shattered, that you win even when you're exhausted, that you shine even when your soul is fading. Nietzsche would call this luxury slavery, a kind of submission where one chains themselves to others' expectations and loses themselves in the process. He preferred the true misfit to the fake success story. He preferred the authentic outcast to the fabricated hero, because there is only greatness where there is truth, and truth needs no makeup. It terrifies, it wounds, but it sets you free. The danger of the success mask is that over time, you start believing it. You start thinking that what you show is what you are, and slowly, you become a character in your own life. Nietzsche warned, the greatest sin is not failure. It's no longer being real. In a world of masks, being genuine becomes a revolutionary act. To revolt here is not to shout or confront others. It is to confront yourself. It is to look at what you've built and ask, is this me? Or is this what they expect me to be? The answer is not always easy. It demands shedding old skins, deconstructing narratives, unlearning what you thought success was. It often requires breaking your own image, the one the world applauds, but that in silence you know no longer represents anything. Nietzsche didn't offer comfort, he offered mirrors. And in that mirror, perhaps you'll see that part of your success is just theater. Maybe you'll see that the cost of maintaining the illusion is too high. And maybe you'll find the courage to let it all fall, because truth, once accepted, is light. It needs no effort to be sustained. It depends on no one's approval. It simply is. And that, to Nietzsche, was the only kind of success worth living for, the one that is born within, grows in silence, and blossoms without needing a stage. The rest is just vanity dressed as virtue. And vanity, no matter how beautiful it seems, builds no legacy. It merely decorates the tombstone of authenticity. You've made it this far. The path was dark, tense, maybe uncomfortable, but if something inside you remained quietly attentive, if a part of you felt these words weren't just ideas but mirrors, then maybe Nietzsche was right. Maybe there is, within you, a calling to greatness. But this greatness is not what the world calls success. It's not in shop windows, trophies, or headlines. It doesn't shine under spotlights. It pulses in the dark, like a buried seed. And like all seeds, to grow, it must die first. Nietzsche did not romanticize growth. He saw it as a brutal process, because to grow truly is to say goodbye. Goodbye to fragile versions of yourself, to comfort zones, to roles that kept you safe but small. It is to strip away inherited ideas, imposed morals, and the invisible chains we call normal life. You're not here to be normal. Nietzsche would never write for the normal. He wrote for the tragic, for the torn, for those who stare chaos in the eye and still say yes to life. Because saying yes to life, not the idealized life, but the real, harsh, absurd life, is the first step toward creation. And authentic success is this, a work made from the inside out, with blood, courage, and silence. You may never be understood. You may never be recognized. You may walk alone. But if with every step you feel you are coming closer to yourself, then you have already won. Nietzsche did not promise comfort. He promised power, the power to become what you were born to be, not what the world expected of you. You will not be guided. You will be challenged. You will be pushed to the edge of your structure. But there, and only there, you will find something no one can give you, your essence, without masks, without compromise. If you can bear the pain, the lack of applause, the crossing of the desert, then you are ready for the most radical creation of all, to create yourself. This is true success. Not the kind that shines, but the kind that transforms. Not the one that is applauded, but the one that is felt. Not the one that conquers the world, but the one that overcomes the self. And in the end, when everything that was appearance has fallen, when the last layer of vanity has been shed, perhaps only one phrase will remain, the simplest and yet the hardest of all: become who you are.